This is Duke University.
So our last speaker is Alexa McGovern Barrett. Please welcome her.
So in my first semester at Duke, I spent a lot of time in the hallway in the laundry room. The girl next door, Diala, had these piles and piles of papers, so much so that they wouldn't fit on one desk, and she had to go out into the hallway and just put 20 papers across from her on the floor and cross-analyze them. I would sit across from her and we'd work together, and then at 2 in the morning, we'd put in our laundry. Little did I know I'd be in the same spot as her 1 year later. The class was Comparative Approaches to Global Issues. You guys know what I'm talking about. It's our introduction course to ICS taught by Professor Hasso. Arguably, hardest course I've taken at Duke. I'd say it rivals Dante's 7 Circles of Hell. Looking back, I'm not sure if Diala, taking this class as a first-year student, was incredibly brave or just completely naive. All of this is to say that at Duke, we've definitely been challenged in the classroom. But it's also a place where we've been thrown into the thick of it. During Thanksgiving break that same first year at Duke, my mom and I read Professor Robin Kirk's book, More Terrible Than Death. It details Professor Kirk's life as a human rights activist in Colombia at the height of drug violence and war. I met with her after break that year to talk about this ICS major. My mom said, wait a second, this is one of the leading people in the program. This woman has been in some really dangerous situations. I calmed her down. This is one professor who traveled and published work on her experiences. That's why she's a professor. 4 months later, I was on a plane to Colombia. I worked for 8 weeks in the slums of Medellin on a documentary about a woman whose husband disappeared and whose daughter was kidnapped 10 years before. One day before a public screening in Colombia, the film was pulled because it would have endangered myself and the woman. 9 months later, in my sophomore year, I was in Nepal interviewing Bhutanese refugees in camps. It was March 2012, and at the same time, 6 of my classmates were in Cairo. Protesters blocked their apartment, and they had to find detours to avoid getting hit by riot police and use their, let's face it, mediocre Arabic to get out of the situation. I'm sure some of them are better than that. I should give them all more credit. Not one ICS major sitting here would run from a challenge, and all of us have formed lasting relationships through the program and because of these experiences. I think that the most valuable aspect of the ICS program is the relationships that we've built within it. Last March, I attended an info session about doing an honors thesis. Incredibly intimidating. I talked to Dr. Sherry Ross afterwards and told her a little bit about my background. When I had mentioned I had done a lot with film, Sherry said, "Oh, so you're thinking about doing a documentary for your thesis?" I paused, had never even thought about it. Yes, that's exactly what I wanted to talk to you about. Little did Sherry know, she had planted an idea that would lead to unbelievably rewarding trips to film in Texas at the border, Mexico, and New York. Sherry is not only a mentor, but she intuits where your path might lead. And she trusted that I had it in me. I had the courage to tackle a thesis in science and genetics because Dr. Misha Engris took me under his wing. In this realm of relationships and unbelievable trust, another one of my thesis advisors, Sarah Katsanis, a geneticist and an expert in DNA policies, flew twice with me to Texas. The first time, she drove 1,500 miles across the state to reach the border. The second time, with only days' notice, she packed up her bags in DC and flew to meet me. Honestly, Who could have dreamed that these people would be here to support us at Duke? Similarly, I screened my honors thesis film at my apartment last week. I expected 5, 6, maybe 10 people to come and support me, and instead 60 people came. It was standing room only, and my friends were on the staircase, they were on the floor, they were squeezed into the couch, and we just squished together and watched a movie-sized projection on my wall. I hope that we can continue to find this kind of support and build these relationships as we move on. But I also know that we can always come back to the ICS community if we need that support. Those first couple of years, our lives were in that hallway. 2 young women trying to figure out, what is this international comparative studies stuff? This was the first place I talked about Palestine and Israel. It was the place I talked about the military dictatorship in Argentina. It was the place where I learned about the genocide in Cambodia. It's the hallway where I wrote my application for Columbia Duke Engage. It's the hallway where I chose my major. That hallway was just the start. We all went through this together, and we made it! I love you all. Thank you.